Hey everybody, welcome to the Leader Lab. This is Leadership Shorts, quick thoughts to help you level up your leadership. My name is Chad Wright. I'm the founder of Forward Partners, and I am joined by my partner in podcasting, Emily Grace Deal. Emily, what are we talking about today?
Often we're taught that hustle and pure grit and determination are the only ways to advance, right?
Yeah.
That they're only ways to get things done.
Yeah.
Should we be thinking about these in a different way? Is there a better way to think about it?
You know, it's funny when you do think about advancing, and that's everything, right? We're taught that we're supposed to climb the ladder, supposed to advance. It is through hard work is the way to get there, and that's what we're taught. And it's funny when I think about history and I think about where I started, where I came from, how I ended up here, how much of my life was defined by that, but also the burnout that followed that.
Yeah.
How it was just hard work. It was just hustle. That was the only tool in the toolbox.
I think the just is so important.
Yes.
If that's all it is, then that's where you start to run into burnout so fast.
I would agree with that, because really the next level that you're trying to unlock, there's times when you cannot just white knuckle your way through it and just pure grit and make it happen.
Yeah.
There are times when you have to back off, when you have to learn new things, you have to rest, you have to learn to navigate things with different rhythms. And it's funny, we have these bracelets made that say keep moving forward. Pretty sure our coffee mugs say it. Yeah, pretty much everything that we have says keep moving forward, because I genuinely believe that if we can keep moving forward, we can find success.
Yeah.
But sometimes that next step forward looks very much like a step back. It is having the courage to not just keep running into the wall.
Yeah.
To say, no, I got to do something different.
I think that's the same as that, seeing rest as a value and seeing rest as a benefit and an investment in yourself instead of lazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny when I think about the evolution of my business, even before I had this one, in my old one, it was so much hustle, 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 hustle. We even created a thing one time that called the Hustle Factory. And so it was around that culture of just hard work. We're getting it. We're making things happen. And hustle is really helpful.
Yeah.
It's a tool. It's a very valuable tool, but it's also a very limited resource. And that's the part that never took into account, right? My only tool, I would open up the toolbox every day. Oh, I've got the hustle tool. Great, let's go hustle.
It reminds me of it in college in our design lab. We had our big sign on the wall that someone had hand typography, hustle harder.
Yes.
Which seemed like the answer, right?
Yes.
That was just hustle harder. It's fine. And that's not always, harder is not always, it's not always the better way to go.
It's not. And there are times when hustle is the tool that you need, right? There are times when you pull the hammer out, and if it's a nail, okay, the hammer's going to come in handy, right? And hustle is that for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But when we start viewing it as a limited resource, we start being more careful with it.
Yeah.
And that was the part that I ran into. And so many of the leaders I work with that are burned out, that's the only tool. That's all they deploy all the time. My answer to everything in that season, and I say season, it was a solid decade. My answer to everything in that decade, it's a long season, was just hustle harder, throw more of myself at it, more time, more energy.
It sounds like a good recipe for burnout.
Oh my gosh. And that's what it was. And the funny part was, through all that time, all that hard work, all that burnout, never actually found the success I was after.
Yeah.
And now that we experience some of that, a lot of that comes from we learned different. I learned to rest. I learned that rhythms have to be different. We cannot just be engaged all the time, right? And that learning was very, very difficult, but it was also vital to actually being able to accomplish the things I wanted to accomplish. Because when I look at the impact we have today and the things we're doing now, those could not have happened back then.
Yeah.
It was not possible. And quite frankly, I couldn't do the things I'm doing today if the only tool I had was hustle. And so learning how to think about this differently, being willing to take a step back can sometimes unlock that next level. And it sounds counterintuitive, but I mean, it really is. And it's funny, in the last episode, we referenced Carl Jung, who has a quote that says, whatever you resist persists. And if you're just constantly engaged with that higher level, pushing, there's going to be some resistance there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to back off to allow things to develop.
Yeah.
That's hard to do. It really is scary.
Yeah, it seems easier said than done, but it is something that you can really, it's the same as, I really do go back to rest, because I still have such a hard time with that one.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people do, but if you're able to just see it as a hustle as a tool, the same rest as a tool, and we need all these things in a rhythm to keep it sustainable.
And it's that rhythm that you're talking about that is so vital, because kind of like hustle, like there's an eventual burnout point where it's no longer helpful. Rest is kind of similar. Like if we just never hustle, it's just all rest all the time. That's also not helpful, right? There has to be this rhythm of hustle and rest and just, and I think we get into the rhythms that I messed up most was hustle like a crazy person and then take my vacation and assume that that's actually going to be helpful.
Right, you're nearing that breaking point, and then you're like, oh, now I can rest. I feel it. I should rest now.
And we do need those vacation rhythms, but more importantly, we need weekly rhythms. We need daily rhythms that are about investment and rest and then hustle, and then investment and rest and hustle, and just that constant rhythm.
I do think a lot of people have the same problem, but I tend to, if I'm not taking the rhythms to rest and to pace myself, then I get to the like, when is my next vacation mode? And you're like, okay, when's the next big break? Because that's what you're looking for, instead of having like intentional rest throughout. You're like, no, when can I have like a solid chunk off? And that's not sustainable either.
No, it's not. It needs to be this regular restoration, and then also regular longer breaks. And that becomes helpful, but it really is, the title we thought of for this episode was, is hustle overrated? And I think if it's the only tool in your toolbox, because not every problem's a nail. Not every problem requires a hammer. Some problems require a lot more finesse and different tools. And so that's where rest and rhythms and backing off come in, creating space to learn new things. It's hard to do, but man, I think it's vital. I really do.
That makes a lot of sense.
All right. If you are in nonstop 24/7 hustle mode, you're trapped, and you are most likely not going to find what you're after. And I can tell you, my son, I had a birthday a few weeks back, and my oldest called me, and he's like, are you taking off? And I said, no, I'm not taking off today. I just took 2 weeks off, so I need to be working today. And he goes, oh, I guess you worked the whole 2 weeks like when we were kids. And I got to tell you, you do not want that call from your kid. Like, he didn't mean it in a bad way, but boy, it hit. And so if you are in the middle of one of those seasons where it's just nonstop hustle, that might be the thing you need to do. But if you are not balancing that out with different rhythms of rest and restoration and investing in yourself, eventually that resource is going to run out, and it's going to become less effective. And so don't just focus on that tool. Focus on the rhythms as well. It's going to make a huge difference for you. All right. I love talking about burnout, rest, rhythms. These are the things that we've got to figure out as a society. So thank you for bringing that subject to us. If people want to send us their own questions, their own problems wrestling with burnout and hustle, and how do we do this, where do they send that to?
lab@forwardpartners.net.
lab@forwardpartners.net. And if they want to find all the content we're producing around leadership on the internet, where do they find it?
@ForwardPartner.
@ForwardPartner, all the socials. You'll find everything we're up to. Emily, thank you for doing this. Ben, thank you for producing. Wilco Workspaces, thank you for partnering with us. We will see you right back here in the Leader Lab next time for Leadership Shorts.